Live from America's heartland, this is the Daily Truth Report with your host, Noah Christopher.
Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. We have a fan favorite back with us today. Bo Polny is back with us. Bo, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Noah. Yes, what a great time to be here, and exciting times. I can't believe we are only about 2 weeks left into year end and about a week from Christmas.
A week from Christmas, and we're going to get to it in a minute, but you're calling it biblical Christmas this year, so we'll discuss exactly what that means in just a moment. But yeah, I always like to say the date when we start, since we do have the man of time with us today. So December 18th, 2023 as we're recording this, and I know these things sometimes get clipped up and re-uploaded and shared all around, which is fine, but always important to know when this was recorded. So that's when we're talking, and so much happening in the political world, in the crypto world, in the US dollar, all that stuff. We're going to talk about that. Bitcoin is right now at 41,700. My favorite XRP is at 60 cents. And Ethereum is at 21.74. So just a little historical context there as you go back, maybe watch this video in the future. Some big moves coming in that, and we will definitely get to all of that by the end. But Bo, I got to start with something that caught my eye recently. And Bo has a beautiful slide deck. We'll get into it. He's got great new slides for us, and then a video clip we're going to watch together. Some really good stuff today. So really excited about all that. But before we do that, Bo, I got to ask, I saw you on Twitter, and all of a sudden I see these messages going back and forth between you and Cliff High. And I know a lot of people watching this probably know Cliff, and they certainly know you. And we've covered Cliff many times on this show and on our website at WLTreport.com. And I find him fascinating, find him very interesting. But as far as I can tell, he just kind of attacked you and really attacked Christianity out of the blue on Twitter. And I'm guessing you probably felt like someone sucker punched you, but that was my take from just reading the messages and certainly knowing you a bit. But what happened there? I thought your response was great. Maybe we'll put some of those images up on the screen here in a second, then people can go find you on Twitter and read them. But what I've been waiting to ask you, what happened there, Bo?
You know, it says in the Bible pretty clearly, they will persecute you in my name. Well, bingo. The other thing is, actually, to be clear, it says, I and Cliff have had an exchange. Actually, let's be clear about the correct use of words and choice of words. Is Cliff and I have had an exchange, because the bottom line was, I just do my thing. I've been doing my thing for years. I wish Cliff all the best. He's a genius. He's a very, very smart man. So I wish no ill against him. All I know is that I'm at the Reawaken tour, and after it's done on stage, I posted a video, and I'm sure he watched it. And then he started out of the blue, the demons manifest, and he starts, trolling me and saying, all the stuff that, that I, whatever his analogy is. But, I guess his take on the world is, that he calls him Elohim, the El. And, from what I'm gathering is he's clumped all the fallen angels with Jesus and the creator God. Like this, that's the craziness. Okay. That's the essence of what I get. I haven't read all this stuff. I could care less about what he has to say from a biblical perspective. I wish him all the best. But, the point is, this is a couple of bullet points. Okay. The Elohim, the angels, the fallen ones, they're a creation. I'm going to repeat that. The Elohim, the El, are a creation. By who? The creator. Period. Okay. God the Father created everything with what? The Word. He spoke. Okay. And Jesus is the Word. He spoke the Word, and thus creation. Period. And what was created? Everything, including evil and the Elohim. Okay. All of it happened. It all manifested. But who was the start of everything? Creator. God the Father. It's an entity. It's not just something that, that's spiritual. No, it's an actual entity. God the Father is an entity. Jesus Christ is an entity. Okay. Holy Spirit is an entity. They are one. They are a trinity, but they're all three entities within one. Period. And then I guess the other thing was, his big argument is, the Bible's been translated in so many different formats and ways. I'm not going to disagree that, because I don't know. I wouldn't doubt it. But there's only there's two truths within the Bible, regardless of what translations you read. I'm going to repeat that. There are two undeniable truths in the Bible that you can't deny, regardless of what version you read. Okay, so don't give me some silly excuse, because Satan's used the excuse, oh, who knows what version you're reading, so who knows what the truth is. See, that's a satanic lie. Satan is a great deceiver. He deceives the world specifically on what? Oh, you don't know if that version's real or this version's real, or that version. I'm telling you, that is like the number one go-to line that Satan's been using for centuries, okay? But there are two undeniable truths. Number one is the math doesn't change. You can read all the versions of the Bible, and in all versions, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. I repeated that over in all the podcasts. They're in Israel was in bondage for 400 years. Okay, Jesus Christ was in the tomb for 3 days. I don't care what version of the Bible you read; the math doesn't change. Those numbers that are stated in all the versions do not change. Okay. The other truth that you cannot change is one simple thing: is Jesus rose from the dead. Period. That was the that is the essence of Christianity. Jesus Christ is a God. Why? Because you can't kill him. He even said, on the third day I will rise. So he rose, kill this temple, and I will rebuild it in 3 days. Jesus Christ rose from the dead on the third day. That is an undeniable fact in all versions of the Bible. And that's it. There's nothing, there's nothing else to talk about with regards to it. And so, there's people out there, trying to deny the truth, because what does evil do? The essence of evil, and this is a great topic, because evil what? He hates God. So what does he do? He hates you. He hates the people listening to this podcast. He hates all of you. He wants you all dead. He knows he's never going back to heaven. Ever is he going back to heaven because of what he did in heaven. He got thrown out, never to come back. So all he's going to do is to try to piss off the Father as much as possible, or take as many souls with him as possible to hell. Okay, so anybody that says that Jesus did not rise from the dead never studied facts, because there's that one reporter that did all the work on that, and it's an undeniable fact that Jesus rose from the dead. It's undeniable. It is undeniable. That simple fact, the fact that he rose from the dead, it's an undeniable fact. That in of itself proves that Jesus is God. Okay, period. Lee Strobel, and it's the case for Christ. You can actually Google that; it's on YouTube, and you can watch that as well. But that is the truth. So that's it. So the math doesn't change. Period. The math in all the Bibles doesn't change. So don't give me some silly argument. Oh, the translations. The translation argument is stupid, silly, and irrelevant. The math doesn't change in all the versions. I'm going to repeat that. The math doesn't change in all the versions of the Bible. And the most important part of the whole story is Jesus Christ rose from the dead, and that is written in all of the Bibles. So that's what I have to say about that. We are in exciting times, but I hope to answer your question, Noah.
No, that's great, Bo. And that is a tremendous book, Lee Strobel. Recommend anybody get that. And especially if you're skeptical, read it and just see what it has to say. It's a tremendous book. So I'm glad you brought that up. And for people that don't know, you said several times, you wish Cliff all the best, and he's a fascinating guy. And yes. in fact, I've extended the offer many times for him to come on the show, and I would extend that again here. I'd love to chat with Cliff, and in many ways, I follow what he puts out there just to see what he's saying. It doesn't mean I have to agree with all of it, and I don't agree with all of it, but he is an absolutely fascinating guy, obviously a brilliant guy, and in many ways, he may be closer to the truth than a lot of asleep Christians are, going to church and not really living anything out, or understanding that we really do truly live in a supernatural world. I mean, the Bible is a supernatural book from beginning to end. And for people that don't know or haven't followed Cliff, it seems to be, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it seems to be his hypothesis or life view is that there's these group of people called the EL. And I assume that's just short for what the Bible calls Elohim, and that's biblical. I mean, that Cliff is close. He's very close on that. And like you say, there is this biblical group called the Elohim. It's all throughout the Bible, and so that's not off base. And it's also not off base that a group of them are bad news. There's a group of fallen Elohim, right? Fallen angels, and Cliff ascribes all of them to being basically the same, and all of them is just, he calls them space aliens, but they are alien to us in a certain way. They are.
Well, another way to look at it, they're gods.
They're
gods. They're gods. And why are they gods? Because they're the fallen ones. They're from heaven. They're gods. So any man on earth will look at these are the most, there's the story of the giants and everything, because, they mated with the woman, and next thing you know, you have these giants. And so these things are big entities and they're powerful. That's why when you study some of the skulls of ancient, they have those elongated skulls, right?
Yes, that's right.
And so the point is, they're smart, very intelligent creatures, but the point is, they're the fallen ones. But to man, they would look at it as like a god, right? Yeah. But they're not God the Father. They're not uppercase G's. They're not the creator. They're creations. So they're lowercase G's. So the distinction between a lowercase and an uppercase G. When you say God, okay, God the Father is an uppercase G. God, the fallen ones are a lowercase g, because they're a creation.
Bo, I'm going to share my screen briefly here, and I don't want to get too far off track. We'll wrap up this topic here in just a minute, but it's just so fascinating to me. And there's a guy, you threw out a great book reference, and there's another reference I'll give people. Michael Heiser, Heiser, on YouTube. Dr. Michael Heiser, brilliant guy. He was a Semitic languages expert and just a brainiac among brainiacs. But he even says in all of his videos, he says he's the most standard, boring Trinitarian Christian, all the core beliefs, Jesus rose from the dead, all that type of stuff. But he spent most of his career looking at basically the El or the Elohim, and he does it in the Bible. And so let me just share this screen right here. He's famous for kind of the foundational area that he goes to is Psalm 82. And most people probably don't know this is in your Bible, and it probably freak a lot of people out. But if you look at this, I just put it on the screen. It's right there. We'll just read it here for just a second. God, and that would be Yahweh, God presides in the great assembly. He renders judgment among the, quote, gods, little g, G-O-D-S. There it is right in your Bible, folks. Psalm 82:1. And there we have God, and then I won't read the whole thing, but he goes on talking to the rest. Heiser calls this the divine council. And so you've got God, Yahweh, presiding over this divine council of people that he created, these Elohim that he created, but very alien to us, right? They're not humans. Yes. And you go down to verse 6, he says, this is God talking to the lowercase gods. I said to you, you are gods. You are all sons of the Most High, but you will die like mere mortals. You will fall like every other ruler. So Cliff is not far off. He just doesn't recognize the one true God that created all of this group. So it's fascinating.
Well,
Cliff.
and let's even add this on the equation. I'm going to use his words. I remember reading this 2-3 years ago. He wrote it somewhere, maybe whatever. I know it was like 3-4 years ago, and one maybe some podcast several podcasts, and his words were very specific. This is the quote from Cliff. He goes, "All people are psychic."
Oh yes, yep.
Okay. Now when you have to interlace the word psychic with prophetic, you can't, because they're one and the same. Because when you're connected, people hear things, and so what ends up happening is when you hear something, you will say something that's typically out of context. When it's out of context, that is something that his web bot would pick up, because it's out of normal everyday context. And so when he says people are psychic, he's right. People are psychic. They're also prophetic. And so when his web bot was picking up words, it wasn't picking up words of only psychics. It was picking the prophetic up. Okay. So you got to give him credit, because he created a very extraordinary mechanism to pick up words that haven't happened yet. Because what's prophecy? Words that haven't happened yet. Right. So what's he been picking up? The prophetic, including the psychic, but definitely the prophetic, and an easy math calculation of that. When you study Matthew, somewhere in his data sets, he picked up the number 600 for silver. Okay. Well, that's actually biblical. It's not just a random number, because Matthew says blessings are 30, 60, and 100-fold. Well, if you take 30-fold times the price of silver today in the low 20s, you're at $600. You see what I'm saying? So the data he's picking up is prophetic, including psychic. So when the data comes back and says, oh, this is from a prophet, oh, this is from a psychic. No, it just comes back as linguistics, that words that are they're combined that normally are not combined in any particular fashion. So I don't know how the details of all it works, but the bottom line is he's picking up the prophetic in addition to the psychic. I wish him all the best. God bless him, everything he's doing. Okay. I just really wish that, him and his followers, just do some research and some homework and don't be led astray, because the bottom line is evil's real. He's actually willing to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
He says that's evil. He calls things out as evil. I've heard him do it, but he'll never say that's of God, right? And so if evil's real, so is God. A coin's got two sides. There's a night and there's day. Okay, all of this stuff is real, but the big problem is it's a battle for the souls. Okay, and so when all heck breaks loose at the end of the end of the end, okay, you want Jesus Christ to say, well done, my loyal, faithful servant. You don't want to hear, I don't know you. I'm telling you, you do not want to hear, I don't know you from Jesus Christ, because all knees will bow to him. All knees will bow to the name Jesus Christ. And you do not want to hear, I do not know you, because that will lead to an eternity of torment for all. That's eternity, torment. So let's put a big bow on this, leave it at that. God bless him, wish him all the best. I truly pray that him and all of his followers do wake up to the truth and research it and understand, what we talked about today. So God bless.
Yeah, and Cliff, I'll reiterate, open invitation to come on this show. I think we're actually all so close to the same topic here, and I think Cliff is so close to the truth that I'd love to have the conversation. And why can't we have a conversation? Why can't we have a discussion about this? So I think that would be fun. But today we're going to have a different conversation about timing. And Bo, I'm going to put your slides on the screen now. We're going to get into those because, like we said at the beginning, we are just entering an incredible time period, a biblical Christmas. And there's some very good things coming. So let me put this right here up on the screen, and I'm going to let you take us through this. Where do we want to go first?
Well, I was just in the Reawaken tour this past weekend here in Tulare, California. Interesting, Tulare means Larry means to feed. And then we're right next door to a little town, literally like a hop, step, and a jump. Right next to Tulare is a town called Goshen. Like, you can't make this stuff up. We are, and how biblical is all of this going on? So we've got the Reawaken tour right next to the city of Goshen. This is incredible how this is all panning out. None of these things are coincidences. We're just watching God's beautiful plan manifest right in front of us.
And
awesome.
Where is that, Bo? Is that California?
California. It's like Tulare. Right next door to Tulare is Goshen. How crazy is this? Wow. And I didn't even know that. I just heard that in the morning. And then the other thing I heard in the morning was this is pretty fun. Okay, we've always talked about Trump. I know you love, because your website. We love Trump website. The name Trump, right? So check this out. What I heard this morning. Okay, actually, no, this morning, the day I was going to go on stage to speak at Reawaken on Friday, I was going to go speak. That morning, what I heard was Orange Man. Okay. So you've heard that, right? That saying, Orange Man bad.
Orange Man bad. Yep.
Yeah, the Trump thing, right? Check this out. God used evil. He's mocking them. He's mocking them. So they're using this to like everything that was used for evil, it ends up being used for good. So here's what I mean by that. So what God revealed to me is, what color is cheese?
Orange.
Orange, is it not? What's cheese used for? To bring out all the rats.
Oh, I love it.
So that's and tell me that's not happening right now. Tell me that is not happening right now.
It's been happening for 7 years. Yeah.
That's right, but they were on attack. But when they read on attack, all the rats came out, because now you see who's attacking. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Oh, that's so true.
How prophetic was that statement? God mocked them while they thought they were mocking Trump. Beautiful.
Well, and there's a famous old clip of Trump, got to be 30 years ago, and he's being interviewed, and the interviewer asks him, what's the most important thing to you? And if you follow him, you probably know the answer is loyalty. He just really appreciates those who are loyal. And so he said back all the way 30 years ago, he says, I might like to lose it all one day just to see who really still has my back. And, from 2020 on, during this pause period, it feels like we've seen that. We've seen who stuck by his side and who has turned on him. So many names I could read that have just turned on him. But now we know.
And the whole time, Noah, he's been taking names.
Oh yeah.
So the rats have come out, and he's just taking names.
Yep. And then when he comes back in, now he knows the people that can be trusted. We don't have to never have another Bill Barr.
And he's got a book pretty darn thick of all kinds of names.
Well, it is Christmas, Bo. He's got a naughty and nice list.
That's right. Yeah, there you go. So how exciting is all of this? Actually, you know what? So the point is, after the as we went on stage, I created a video. It's about 6.5 minutes long. It's really worth listening to. And to be honest with you, I think it's a fantastic way to start this podcast, because if we start the podcast, we watch the video, it'll set the stage for a bunch of questions that you might end up having. And then we can get through a whole bunch of the slides very, very quickly, because the video actually covers a whole bunch of details in a very tight window of time. So if you can put the video on and let's listen to this, and then I'm sure you have a bunch of questions.
Okay, let's do it. I've got it queued up. We'll watch this. It'll be about 6 minutes, and then we'll pop back in here. So everybody, please enjoy.
The giants that have come, the brothers of Goliath, stand in glee watching America. We will cripple you. You will lose your credit. And people will become very afraid. I have said I will bring this nation to its knees.
The United States is going to parallel what we saw with Lazarus. John 11, Lord, he, the United States, whom you love, is ill. Illness does not lead to death. And then Jesus says to the disciples, Lazarus, again, the United States, has died. So we'll look like God abandoned us. It's initially going to look horrible. Lazarus, the United States, has already been in the tomb for 4 days. So don't be surprised if we go dark. Don't be surprised that we go dark for 4 days. Lazarus was in the tomb for 4 days. Then Jesus says, Lazarus, or the United States, will rise again. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, though he die, shall he, United States, live. Jesus says, come out. That moment when we come out, that's the great awakening.
And people will become very afraid. I have said I will bring this nation to its knees. And God said, you have been humbled. And then you shall hear the sounds of great victory.
I've kept a secret place in my heart for this nation. You have begun a 4-year harvest. Do you understand that you have gone through August, September, and October? And now I'm going to take you into 4 years of harvest that this nation has never seen or experienced. There will be a celebration around Christmas that will bring your enemies to the floor. Why? Because God has said, enough of this, enough of this, enough of this. Okay, so let's do some math. 2016, from Obama and the transgenders in the military, at 7 years, 2023. Timeline started in 2016, 7 years, 2023. What did Kim Clement prophecy say? We're going to bring your enemies to the floor, into Christmas, the 24th, 25th. First seal of Revelation, which was Corona. You see, all of these seals of Revelation open on biblical feasts. Hanukkah was in the year 2019, and it was from December 22nd through the 30th. The last day of Hanukkah in the year 2019 was on December 30th. On December 30th was the first diagnosed lab case of Corona. So on the last day of Hanukkah, first diagnosed case of Corona. A massive, massive shaking is about to happen into the winter solstice. We've been through 4 years of hell, and we're supposed to go into 3 to 4 years of the greatest 3 to 4 years the world has ever seen. This is going to be the greatest time point in human history. So now that I've explained all that, let's listen closely to this prophecy, and you'll understand what Kim was saying in reference to time.
For many that have cried out and said, God will destroy this nation. The Spirit says, may I remind you, the covenant that I made with this nation is immutable, is unchangeable, that I created and spoke over this nation to feed the world, to heal the earth. God says, yes, judgment will come, but it shall not come at this time in the fashion that they have spoken. They have said, there shall be a crash and America shall be crippled. God said, not at this time, not at this time, for I have raised you up for a season. And there shall be 7 years where I will take you out of your besiegement. You have been besieged for 7 years, America. You have been surrounded by your internal enemies. Haters of America have stood up, and I will take the wealth of the wicked and for a season transfer it into the hands of the righteous. And
all these people actually believe they're going to get away with it. Because why? They've all been tricked or deceived by who? The great deceiver. God's undefeated. God's letting them walk in, and they're walking into what I've kind of called the greatest trap in human history.
I will bring an amount of restoration to this nation And they shall be taken out of their siege that you've been in for 7 years. And then the songs will come from all over this nation, from young people who deserve to sing my song.
Wow.
Okay, so I want people to understand the timing.
A reading from the scroll of the prophet Isaiah. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, proclaim liberty to the captives, and recovery of sight to the blind, to the opening of the prison for those who are bound, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. The fulfillment of this scripture, as you have heard it, is today. This is the year of the Lord's favor. This is a year of jubilee, a year the poor, the brokenhearted, the captive, and the blind are offered redemption. Here, now.
Jesus, please explain why you stopped the reading before Isaiah spoke of the day of vengeance of our God.
The day of vengeance is in the future.
And then the songs will come from all over this nation, from young people who deserve to sing my song.
7 years comes to an end now. Now.
I told you that was going to be good.
Wasn't that beautiful how we say, you have been besieged. Besieged by definition is taken over. You have been besieged for 7 years, and I'm going to take you out of your besiegement.
Well, and 7 years is really interesting. I think we'd all agree that from the Biden regime coming in 2020, but 7 years takes you back to 2016. And I think it's that constant underlying treachery and deceit, even when 45 was in office.
Right. Well, that's exactly because it goes back to the time what God revealed to him from a calculation standpoint. It's actually calculated that it was the 30th of June 2016 when Obama let transgenders into the military. That started the weakening of the United States. So that brought the evil into a nation founded under God.
So even though we had 45, he was up against all sorts of backstabbing and infighting and snakes and wolves in sheep's clothing that he was having to fight those first 4 years.
Exactly. It was a constant battle because God stuck him in the middle of evil.
Yes.
But who better to stick in the middle of all that?
and it's still amazing to me that I don't know who else really could still be standing at this point. I mean, he is I certainly he's human and has made mistakes and everything, but to still be standing, I think it's only by God holding him up through all those years. I truly think he was trained his whole life for this moment, maybe not even knowing that. But to still be standing is incredible right now. And not only standing, but here comes the counterpunch. Yeah. No, and that's that second 7 years, right? So we've been besieged, and then you've got the second 7 years, which seems like it'll start right at 2024.
Well, let's look at this, okay? So go to page 8 because let's look at that again. It is written, right? It's written. And so forget which Bible it's written in, because in all the Bibles, I'm going to repeat that, in all the versions of the Bible, you go to page 8, it says, Daniel says it'll be for time and a half a time. That's 3.5 years in all the versions of the Bible. I don't care what translation it's written in, because all the versions of the Bible say, and Daniel basically says it will be for times and a half a time, and that specifically is 1,260 days or 3.5 years. But this is awesome, okay? Because we've been friends for a long time, Noah. Okay, we watched oil go to negative $38 a barrel, did we not? That's when that kind of right when we met, isn't it?
Sure did. That's right.
Yep. And so let's look at the cycle. So if you look, let's look at the Daniel cycle that is written per the word of Daniel via God. Okay, so what is it? Trump wins the election November 8th, 2016. 1,260 days later, oil goes to negative $38 a barrel. Click on page 9 and you can see what it looks like on a chart. Check it out. There it is. Okay. There's oil going to negative $38 a barrel on the 20th of April, 2020. Okay. 1,260 days to the exact day from when Trump got elected. Oh, just a coincidence. Like, you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh of the perfection that's you when you use these numbers. Okay, this is craziness, but it's happening. We're watching it. Okay, so let's go back to page 8. And so the next cycle of time, it was 30 days. Okay, and so 30 days takes us to May 20th of the year 2020, and on that exact day, the Edenville Dam broke in the township of Hope, Michigan. I've repeated this many times, but the point I'm trying to say is that's the water breaking before birth. And what was birthed on the 40-day mark was a latter rain, latter temple. Okay, so how crazy is this? But okay, what a coincidence that remember studying 40 days and 40 nights in all the versions of the Bible. 40 days and 40 nights from oil going to zero. What happened? George Floyd writes, and peace was taken from the earth with the second seal manifesting, because try to explain to me why the day after the George Floyd riots, Paris is rioting. What's Paris rioting over? Like, right. What's their deal if the George Floyd, you see what I'm saying? Because the moment peace was taken from the earth, and then from that point on, right, from the George Floyd riots on, the events that happened are staggering. If you click on page 6, look at this. So George Floyd riots happen, okay, on the 20th of the year 2020, in May 2020. And look at this. Paris riots, Brazil riots, London riots, Argentinian riots, Black Lives Matter, Portland riots, Chicago riots, Minneapolis riots, Indianapolis riots, New York riots, Seattle riots, the Russia-Ukraine war, the Canada Trucker Rally, Israel-Hamas war. I can go on and on and on and on.
Yep. We lived it.
We lived it. Okay. Tell me that any of that existed before the George Floyd riots.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't. It didn't. You see what happens when a seal opens? It's a worldwide phenomenon.
Mm.
Isn't it incredible?
Yeah, makes sense.
It's incredible. Okay, so now let's go back to page 8. So let's look at the math again. All right, so from that point on, the next is a 1,260-day count. Well, actually, the other from oil going to zero, then you run 150 days later. You and I watched this happen together. It's 150 days. The water kept rising for 150 days, and that was written in, I've got to keep saying this, in all the versions of the Bible, regardless of the translation. You got to keep harping on this because it's just beautiful, right? Because the math is, the math is unchangeable.
Yeah, numbers are universal.
Numbers are universal. So for 100, and then what happened on the 150th day? I said something's going to happen. Something's going to happen, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Remember that? We watched it together. Okay, I didn't know what was going to happen. I just knew the math. Okay, and so now we're going to go from oil going to zero. We're going to another 1,260-day cycle. We get to November 2nd. 2023. This is last month. Anything happened, Noah? Hindsight's 2020. Go to page 10.
Okay.
What's the dollar been doing? It's been tanking, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've been covering that a lot.
That's right. The gold's been going up and the dollar's been tanking. Why? Because look what happened. On November 2nd, the US dollar broke support and plunged, and it's been in a down cycle since, to the exact day, because that Trump cycle that I'm referencing it's a monetary Trump cycle. That's what I come to realize. Every calculation represents some form of money transaction.
Mm-hmm.
Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
Every calculation represents some kind of a money transaction. So on the second calculation, a third or whatever calculation that was, we had the US dollar breaking support. It broke the trend line and it collapsed. And that was Friday, November 3rd. Boom, straight down. And go look at the chart ever since. It's been heading down. The dollar's going down. It's finished. Okay. The dollar is going to go down. The dollar is the opposite trade. I'm going to repeat this. The US dollar is the opposite trade. What does trade mean? It means that if people are buying the dollar, gold and silver go down. If people are selling the US dollar, the federal, which is not federal, reserve, there's no reserve, note, which just means paper, okay? So if people are selling the Federal Reserve note, nations are selling it, then the dollar's going down because nations are selling it, they're dumping it, and what's going to go up? Gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies. There you go. Okay, so let's go back to page 8. Let's look at the math again, okay? So we run a 1,260-day cycle. That leads us to the last part of the Daniel calculation, is December 17th.
Mm-hmm. I see that.
Yesterday.
Right there. Yep.
Yesterday.
Okay.
Now, this is the critical part of this calculation. No one knows the day or the hour Christ is returning. Just like no one knows the day or the hour Babylon is going to fall. So we are at critical mass. So in the video you just watched, what did I say at the very end of it? Kim Clement saying, I'm going to take you out of your besiegement for 7 years because you've been besieged for 7 years. Mm-hmm. And the video I said was, when they closed the video, I said, we are here now. Now. And so I don't know the exact day or the hour, but this is the cool thing that I've said on your show, Noah, and you can vouch for this, and on Nino's show and Greg Hunter's show. I said from the summer solstice, remember this conversation? From the summer solstice, when the text came out linking Hunter to his father, because he kept denying that 45 kept denying that he has any relation to his son's business dealings. And, and on the summer solstice, the first day of summer, the text comes out saying, what they're doing the shakedown on him and his dad are doing the shakedown on China. What did I say? Mark my words, from the summer solstice to the winter solstice, 180 days, 180 degrees, you're going to see something huge go down. And when does God normally show up? In the fire,
right?
At the very end.
At the very end, yes.
At the very end, that's why it's called 11th hour. 11th hour is the last hour before midnight. Well, what month are we in? How many hours are in a day? 24, but day and night are delineated by half, which is 12. And so you have 12 hours in the day. Typically, you have 12 hours a night. But basically, it's 12 and 12, half and half. And so, how many months of a year are there?
12.
12. Interesting. And we're almost at the end of the year in the 12th hour. The 11th hour is over. We watched the video. You've been through August, September, and October. Now we're in November into December. So, and what's happening this week? I think it's Thursday. The winter crux. Okay. So, what's the winter crux? Well, by definition, a crux is specifically, you can see it here, it's on page 33. The crux is what's called a decisive time point. So that forms in the heavenlies for 3 days. The sun doesn't change. On the fourth day, it begins to rise earlier. So in other words, every day starts getting longer.
Yes.
Okay, so there's that transition point. That's on the December 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And that's why on the 25th, Christmas is on the 25th, because that's the first day the sun begins to rise. Their sun. Their sun. They're back to what you said earlier. It's the God's plural, not God, God's plural, lowercase. So what begins to rise is a lowercase, their sun, because they're sun worshipers. So it's S-U-N, not capital S-O-N, Jesus Christ. This is their sun gods. Their sun begins to rise. So what happens is on that day, that's why we celebrate Christmas, because it's the celebration of their God.
Interesting. Yeah, because
not Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ was not born on the winter solstice. Let me promise you that. Number two is you got to joke, you got to laugh about Christmas. There's sure a lot of Christmas trees in Bethlehem, weren't there? A lot of snow at the same time, wasn't there? Like, really?
We're tackling all the big topics in this one today, but yeah, that's. I think most scholars would say Jesus was born in September, and I think in the year that he would have been born, it was September 11th.
Yeah, September. Yeah, from what I gathered, it's 3 BC, 9/11. That's why they did the attack on the Twin Towers, because basically they want the world to mourn the birth of Jesus.
Yes, and so fascinating stuff. Too much to get into right now, but imagine that he was actually born on September 11th, and then what's happened with that day. So crazy stuff. But it is. It's hard to figure out what to do with that.
But again, of that's, and I guess the point is it's not even an argument or discussion right now. The point I'm trying to make is let's step back, Noah, and let's look at the bigger picture. Okay, how long was Israel in bondage to Pharaoh? You know the answer, right? It is written, because in all the versions of the Bible, it is written that Israel was in bondage to Pharaoh for 400 years.
Okay. Yep.
Okay? In all the versions. Okay. And so when you go study so the Mayflower landed in 1620. So you can see it on page 19. So the Mayflower lands 1620. 400 years later, oh, what a coincidence. Corona comes on scene and first seal of Revelation manifests. World as we know changed forever. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me the world did not change forever in January of 2020. Right? Yep. Okay. So 4 years takes us into this January. Now it's interesting because the next page, page 20, do you realize that the Mayflower landed in 1620? But check this out. This is actually, if the link's right there, if you want to click it. But it basically, I cropped it out. It's right there and highlighted it. But it says, however, the first true Thanksgiving was not until 1623. So last month was 400 years.
Oh, interesting.
So you want big picture? Big picture is we're harvest. What's harvest? Well, what does it say in Galatians 6, verse 7? For what a man, be not deceived. Okay? Be not deceived. Go back to the beginning of our interview. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man soweth, thus shall he reap. What does sow means? To plant seed. If you planted evil seeds, you will receive evil upon your own head at harvest when God intervenes. So these people of the world have planted evil seeds in an attempt to destroy humanity. And now they're going to reap what they have sown on their own heads.
Yep, it's about time.
Okay. And so God, into the Kim Clement prophecy, now it will take you out of your besiegement. Okay. So very, very important time point we're living in right now. If we go back to, then you head up to page 37. Page 37 shows you very clearly, the 7-year patterns. God revealed this to me. It's 7-year patterns we're stepping into as 2023 comes to an end into the winter solstice here. And then January begins. We start the time of glory. What's the time of glory? It's page 38. It's a window of divine favor. What does divine mean? God intervened. And the world we know changes forever. When God intervenes, go to page 44. These are things that will come and are immediately going to begin here in 2024. All of these things are starting like immediately when 2024 begins. Because when God intervenes on the world, we're going to see with the start of 2024, it's like the greatest blessings the world has ever seen. What's that? Wealth transfer. The greatest revival the world has ever seen. What's that? Well, spiritual revival. We're going to begin to see incredible things manifesting on this earth. The word of Jesus is going to start spreading like wildfire. We're going to see why? Because it's the great awakening. It's the great shift. The fall of Babylon. What we're talking about is specifically the fall of Babylon. That's Mystery Babylon. They've used the money and the purse strings to control humanity. And so when God intervenes, this is a standstill and watch the salvation of the Lord moment. This is the Red Sea moment where God intervenes in the world and stands still, watch the salvation of the Lord, for he will work for you, for us today. And so we're going to see the greatest vindications the world has ever seen. And we're going to see the greatest open heaven the world has ever seen. Well, what's an open heaven? Open heaven, by definition, is something very specific. It's a door that God opens. You see, when God opens a door, this is critical. No man can close it. So God says, bravo, 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 bravo to all of you who have endured these past 4 years, because now is a time. It's a time for bravo. All of these things are coming. And with open heavens, the revival, we're going to see signs, miracles, wonders, things that are unexplainable. What's a miracle? A paralytic getting out of a chair in the name of Jesus. What's a miracle? A guy's vision being restored that couldn't see all his life in the name of Jesus. What's a miracle? Someone who had his leg cut off in the military or shot off in a wheelchair, automatically, suddenly his leg grows back. That's a miracle. You see, all of these things are impossible. But my God, capital G-O-D, the creator of all things, in him, all things are possible, regardless of what version of the Bible you read. All things are possible. So,
so you talked about a great wealth transfer, and you have been all over the crypto markets and in the U.S. dollar. They really go together. We've talked about it so much in the past. But
before you do that, Noah, just lastly, clip up to page 41, because remember, it says bravo, they've become the vindications, right? So I'm telling you, I don't know what this math means. All I know is God said, count the math. And I did the math, and it freaked me out, because from the day he married Melania to this Purim, it's exactly 7,000 days to the exact day. It's not off by even 24 hours. It literally to the exact day of Purim is, and like, do you think really Trump and Melania planned their wedding date around Purim's and they counted backwards 7,000 days? Like, really? So my question is, what does that mean? But all I know is that if you study the story of Esther, she's married to the king, which means that he would have to be king, right? Like, so is it going to play out this way? I don't know, but it sure feels like it. Something's about when God intervenes, everything you think is impossible suddenly becomes possible. And and those that know what the Haman effect is, but basically Haman is the one that wanted to kill all the Jews. He hated them. Sound familiar? Evil, hating Jews, Christians. Anything. So, and what happened is in a 24-hour window, Haman and his entire family hung on the gallows that he built. Okay, so the tables flipped in suddenly 24 hours, and that's what happens when God intervenes. Okay?
Yeah, and there's been so much talk about, and even Trump himself. We've covered it so many times in some of his past speeches, but you could say, oh, maybe he was just confused or it was a misspeak, but he keeps hinting around this spring time period about something big happening, and it's happened so many times that you almost don't think it's not just a slip of a tongue at that point. So that's really interesting that lines up with your March 23rd. 2024. Well,
and let's do some very simple math. Okay, so what did I say? So you are to work for the fields for 6 years and rest on the seventh. You're supposed to work for 6 days and rest on the seventh. Are you with me? So why do I say end of December is very important? Because when you look at the end of the summer solstice, 180 days is the winter solstice. So it's 6 months, right? So July, August, September, October, November, December. There's your 6 months. Are you with me? So that's why something critical happens here into the end of the year. Critical happens, or I say biblical. Now, the other critical time point would be you also want to use that same calculation of time relative to when God's 50th year ended, and that was Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, September of this year. Okay, so October, November, December, January, February, March.
Yep. Oh, it's going to be interesting.
I'm going to repeat that. From September to March is 6 months. The end of Purim, end of March is Purim, 23rd, which lines up perfectly with Rosh Hashanah 6 months earlier. Just telling you.
Oof.
Awesome.
That's good. Yeah.
Ahead. So it's the best of times the world has ever seen. In the worst of times the world has ever seen, because what evil is planted for us, evil is about to reap on its own head.
Oh, that's good. All right, yeah. I told you everybody at the beginning. This is going to be exciting.
Let's finish up on the U.S. dollar and gold, silver, and cryptocurrency.
Oh, yes. People would not be happy if I let you get out of here without talking about that. So, all right. Well, what's coming, Bo? I think some big moves. It just feels to me like we're ready to go, and we've seen some big things happening even just in the last couple of weeks. I mean, the things getting very jumpy, and
so go to page 45.
Okay. There we go.
So we talked about the U.S. dollar breaking support as November began, exactly per the 1,260 day calculation cycles that I've been using and showing the world that are written in all the versions of the Bible. Now, why I want to say that is because we know from that calculation, I've showed another chart in prior podcasts with you, that the U.S. dollar is in the down cycle for a long time. Okay, so what do we say? If the dollar is going down, it's on a sell. So people are selling the dollar. They're doing what? Buying the opposite trade, right? Which would be what? Gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies. Are you with me? Okay. So the other day, last week, because December started, what we saw was on the 1st of December 1. Somebody's just go exactly. Yeah. So what we saw here was as December was beginning, and then into the 4th, what do we see? We saw gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies spike vertical. And then suddenly they smashed them down on the 5th, 6th. It was in the cycle, Noah.
I see that.
It was supposed to drop into December 11th. It did. I want to say the word perfectly. or as expected, how I write my reports. And then it went up starting December 11th on the 12th and 13th for 2 days perfectly, or as expected. It backed off now, and is backing off right now, perfectly, right into that blue arrow, which is titled December 18th today. The top cycle is history. That's happened years ago. I've covered up the future dates, candlesticks, and everything, because, again, that's for my subscribers. But the essence of what I'm trying to illustrate here is everything that's going on in Bitcoin right now relative to history, because history says what in the Bible? That which has been will be again. There is nothing new under the sun. So that which has been is the top cycle. Bottom cycle will be again. And it's happening right in front of us. Okay. So what I'm trying to illustrate to yourself, Noah, and to the, well, you got my report, so you know.
I do.
World is basically that everything is not random. Tomorrow is not random. God wrote the end from the beginning. Again, this is another critical thing. There's no randomness in the world. Okay. There is no randomness in the world. I'm going to repeat that. There's no randomness in the world. So to think that, tomorrow's random is insanity. Because it says in the Bible, tomorrow's not random. That which has been will be again. I'm showing you right now that you can predict tomorrow. Not the events, but what the candle from the chart, you can see the candlesticks that are going to happen tomorrow. I know the candlesticks of tomorrow. I just don't know the events that are going to bring them in. Get it? But I know I got the candlesticks. And the big picture of this, try to have someone who's an atheist disprove to me the Daniel prophecy. Seriously, have an atheist go disprove the Daniel prophecy. You know what the Daniel 2 prophecy is? It's the Daniel statue that is a dream Nebuchadnezzar had 2,500 years ago. He had this prophecy, Noah, 2,500 years ago. You can actually see it on page 14. We'll come back in a second, but go to page 14. Noah, this is mind-blowing. Please have some atheist explain this to me, how someone can write a 2,500 year prophecy. There's not a psychic on this globe. There's Nostradamus prophecies are only 400 years old from what I believe. They're not 2,500 years old. This is 2,500 years. Perfect. Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, the papacy, everything. Every part of this prophecy is true. Why? Because God wrote the end from the beginning. Why? To show the world that he, the creator of all things, his son Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit are real. He wrote the end from the beginning to show the world that there is a God. And anyone that tells you tomorrow's random doesn't understand what I'm showing you here. And so all that's missing from this prophecy is page 18. All that's missing is the fall of Babylon, because it morphed into Mystery Babylon. Babylon's going to fall. It's coming down. Babylon is coming down by the hand of God after 400 years is over at harvest. Now. And that's going to lead. And how do they build Babylon? With the money. So why do we get the great wealth transfer? Why? Because they built Babylon enslaving everybody with mortgages, student loans. You can just go on, car payments, credit cards, the derivative contracts that they've been selling paper gold to the world for, 500 contracts to one. So the whole system is a lie. They've gone from millions of dollars in the 70s to quadrillions now, which is 1,000 trillion. So the money system is blown up to insanity. What did God say about that? You have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Your kingdom has come to an end. So when you go to page 45, back to cryptocurrencies, it's very representative of precious metals, gold and silver, and the US dollar, because the US dollar is finished. I showed you the calculation as of the start of November, the US dollar's finished. It's going down. It's going to go down, and then collapse into the years forward. So it's going to be worth, I've said, I love this way of stating it's going to be worth less, and then worth less, and then worthless into the end of this decade. So the dollar is completely going to be destroyed, and we're going to see the birth when the dollar gets destroyed. Okay, when it loses its status as the world reserve currency, that moment in time is the fall of Babylon. Is this loss of status as its world reserve currency? Is the explosion moment for gold and silver, and that's the open heaven. And that's the explosion moment for cryptocurrencies as well. Because what's an open heaven? It's a door that no man can close.
Well, Bo, just in the time we've been talking, Bitcoin is now over 42,000. And let me just ask you point blank, because I know people will be curious. We obviously can't reveal everything that's in your reports, but to simply put, do we have some big spikes or some big explosion coming for Bitcoin in the near future? I mean, is that kind of what we're looking out for?
Again, I'm just telling you, I've said before, and I'll say it again, this Christmas is expected to be truly awesome. I've called it Christmas shock. Another word would be biblical Christmas. So we'll see how this all plays out. All I know is that we're at a moment in time where no one knows the exact day or the hour this could and will go down. But I truly find the winter, because God's a God of time, okay? And he does things on his time and his seasons. This is scriptural, okay? I don't care what Bible version you read. Seasons is written, I'm sure, in all the Bibles, the word seasons, okay? But I just want to use that word. He's got a time, which means his times, his feasts. Those are his times are his feasts. And his season would be seasons, and these are God-made seasons. There's fall, winter, spring, and summer. Okay, those are God's seasons. So we are stepping a transition point from one season to the next. Very important time point. So to answer back to your question, all I'm saying is that I expect biblical things in the month of December. I do believe, and I would expect, or I do believe that the winter crux, the winter solstice is a very important biblical time point. And so a lot of excitement is coming. I do know, per the charts, what December is going to bring. I do know what January is going to bring with regards to the charts. I'm very excited. I have the cycle patterns. I know, I do know what's coming. I'm not revealing all of it because it's not necessary for the world to know everything. Those that do want to know the details, you can subscribe, get the Bitcoin index. But the bottom line is, you and I have been doing how many podcasts, Noah? How many, right? For years now. And yes. What do we talk about? The dollar is a fraud. They created out of thin air. This is the summary of all things, right? The dollar's a fraud. They created out of thin air. The stock market's a fraud because it's based on a fraud. And because what they've done, they've created everything out of thin air. It's all smoke and mirrors, but that's what Mystery Babylon is. That's why it's called Mystery Babylon. And so when God intervenes, he flips the financial scales, Babylon falls, and the greatest financial event in human history begins.
It begins. That's a good word. I like that. Yeah. Well, listen, if you, Bo just mentioned it, but he is always kind enough to give a discount on the newsletter that he puts out, his Bitcoin index. And like we always say around here, I really appreciate all the time you give us, Bo. And it's not just the time on this show either. All the time you spend putting your slides together, incredible presentation, your video clips that you put together. Great stuff. And Bo puts that all out for free, and he comes and chats with us for free. And I love that. It's one of my favorite things to get to do a new interview with Bo. So if that's enough information for you, that's great. There are some people that are watching this that are saying, well, no, I want to see the right side of that chart up above, or I want to see Bo's future turn dates. And that's why he puts out this Bitcoin index. Everything he puts out is for free, except for this is a paid subscription. And you don't have to get it if you don't want it. But for those people that are saying, man, I'd love to see that. I know I always love reading it. So that's on the screen right here. You can go, and it's also, I've had it scrolling down at the bottom of your screen too. You go to gold2020forecast.com. And when you get in there, there's going to be a box for a code. You type in WLT49, and that's going to give you 50% off. You can get in there. You can read all the full reports. Bo usually does an update every couple days, every 2-3 days, kind of on average. I can tell you just as someone who reads that. But all of the back issues are in there too. I think that's a lot of times some of the most fun to go back and see what he said, then compare it to what's actually happened. And a lot of it will blow your mind how accurate he's been. So you can grab that if you want. I always get people asking about this, people who are interested in crypto. Maybe they've never taken that first step because it's just too intimidating, but they're starting to hear crypto. They're starting to hear Bitcoin on CNBC. They're starting to hear it and see it in the Wall Street Journal. And they're saying, okay, this is not going away. I'm hearing about a Bitcoin ETF is coming soon that they're going to approve. everybody thinks any day now. All of a sudden, your stockbroker is going to be wanting to sell you Bitcoin. Okay, how do I get ahead of this? Maybe I want to get some now before everybody else gets in, and it's too late. So if you don't even know how to get started, but you'd like to learn, Bo has the easycryptoschool.com. You go there, and it's going to teach you from step 0 to the end how to do it step by step, do it safely. He breaks down all the steps. He tells you which websites to go to, which ones you can trust, and how to do it without, there's a lot of pitfalls, without getting scammed. There's a lot of scams out there, or just without making a mistake. Sometimes if you do the wrong thing, you send your Bitcoin somewhere that it shouldn't go, and that can be a costly mistake. So if you'd like help with that, if you're interested, you love this, you want to know more, you want to be one of the early adopters, and you want to get into this, but you don't know how, that's for you. That's the easycryptoschool.com. Same thing there. Bo will give you 50% off if you're watching this video. But those are only for about a week or so, and then those promo codes expire. So go ahead and grab those now if you want. WLT49 is the same promo code you put in there. So Bo, appreciate you everything you give us for free, and then I appreciate, as someone who reads your Bitcoin index, I love getting it. And every time it comes in the email, I usually stop what I'm doing and click over and read it and see what's coming next. So I love that. And the funny thing is, I'm not really a trader. I'm not buying and selling, but I still just kind of like to know what's coming up next. And I like to add Bitcoin and some other coins when I can. And so, hey, is today a good day, or should I maybe wait a week to make that purchase? And so I love getting your report. So you don't have to be a trader to get that. I'm not a trader, but I love reading it. Anyway, that is for the people who always ask me, I want some more information from Bo. Can you just get it? And it's all in there. So let me shut this down here. Let me put Bo back on the screen. And
I would have finished this right now. Just regarding cryptocurrencies, it's not so much Bitcoin. They're just, when the event happens, right? It's not only Bitcoin. It's many cryptocurrencies are going to move to the upside. It's going to be very powerful. But also know that majority of all cryptocurrencies are going to go to zero. And why I'm saying that is because you don't need 10,000 cryptocurrencies. Okay, you need a handful. Okay, so it's very important to have the correct cryptocurrencies. Very important to have the correct ones. So we cover a handful of very important cryptocurrencies that I believe are going to do fantastic into the future. And many of them are not $42,000 or $44,000. Okay, a lot of them are super cheap. Some are around the dollar range, under $100. So there's a lot of coins that are out there that are worth getting. Again, and just those that don't understand cryptocurrencies, I understand that. At some point you're going to need to learn about it, because bottom line is, when the Federal Reserve becomes unimportant, people are going to be transacting cryptocurrencies whether you like it or not. And also, gold and silver are going to be huge as well too. So that's what I want to say with regards to the precious metals and cryptocurrencies. But I can finish on this. We're at a moment in time where something's about to happen. This is a very, very, very important moment in time. We've talked about this in many podcasts. I've talked about this with yourself, Noah, and many other podcasters. And I said, as we head into end of the year, as we head into the winter solstice, expect many things to possibly manifest. So we are extremely close to something happening here in our world. God bless everybody. This is Christmas time. See what's going to happen. Just, spend time with your family. Make sure you've gone to the store. Make sure you got some extra food and water. Just make sure you're prepared. So whatever happens, you're not panicking. You're not running to the stores to get anything, because you've been prepared and you've got everything that you possibly could need. So, all
right.
If things go dark, it's normal as well too, because Lazarus was dead in the tomb for 3 days, and the fourth day, he rose from the dead. Okay, so expect things when things go down. It could get very scary and ugly. Okay, whether it's now or in March, I'm just telling you, things are going to get pretty crazy. But on the other backside of the equation, right, it's glory. Always, when you look back at biblical events, as ugly, as scary things that could have gotten or got, God then showed up, and then ends up being one of the greatest time point in human history. Take it back to Jesus on the cross. It looked horrible on the cross, in the tomb, right? Horrible. And on the third day, the greatest victory in human history.
There we go. We're 7 days away from biblical Christmas, and then an incredible year to come after that. So, Bo, thanks for coming on right before Christmas. It's going to be a great time. Thanks for giving everybody the update. We'll have you back on in January, and we'll see where things are. But I have a feeling it's going to be a big update. So thanks for coming on today, and we'll see you soon.